Hello there. We are reviewing Happy 420. Before I say anything else to my fellow stoners out there, we're basically, I guess, technically on the last of the Chucky movies. But for me, the last of the Chucky movies was Colt. But I am still reviewing this just because it's still part of technically the Child's Play franchise. This movie came out in 2019, and to be honest with you, it didn't. It really. I initially liked it when I first watched it because I think I knew going in it wasn't gonna be Brad Dourif. I watched it again the other day. I'll admit it's not. It should not have been called Child's Play. I think I grade it in two ways. That's gonna be kind of how this review is gonna be. It's a decent slasher. If you don't call it, you have to change the name. You can't call him Chucky because it was dumb to call him Chucky because the reason he was called Chucky in the original story was because his name was Charles. You know, and then the voodoo aspect was like one of the most important things, and it just making him an AI. And the thing is, if you had just made this an original story that you could have kind of inspired by Chucky, you could have like, you know, I think that would have been interesting because it's not a bad slasher. I think there are some solid kills. The characters aren't bad. I'm still not a fan of Andy being 13. I think one of the aspects that made the original Child's Play scary was that was a young kid. It was a toddler. Well, he's not a toddler, but he was like, I think at least 6 or 7. That's what made it kind of scary. Like, this is a 6 or 7 year old kid. You know, I mean, I'm not saying a 13-year-old is not scary. I'm not trying to like downplay that, but I think aging him up too much was I'm not a fan of. But I overall was okay with Andy. I was okay with his mom. I didn't care for his friends, I'll admit. That's like the one aspect. I was okay with his 2 friends that he was hanging out with, but a lot of the other kids that we see later on, I don't care for. So the movie starts off with Kazlan Company, who I guess this is this universe's good guy or play pals. Before I do anything. One of the workers basically takes the safety protocols off one of the buddy dolls that's about to be introduced and then kills himself. I'll admit this intro was pretty good. I really do dig this opening, so I'll give it that. Like I said, there's some solid kills in this film, but that was an cool opening. Then we're introduced to. I don't really like that they're calling them the Barclays in this. I don't. I think the mom in the original was Karen too, or maybe she had a different name. But Andy Barclay, why? If you're gonna still call him Andy, to be honest, just change the last name. Do something different. It's not as bad as like the Nightmare reboot. I'll give it that, where they don't flat out rip off shots from the original. I'll give it that. But I just feel like, and I guess we're also introduced that her mom has a boyfriend named Shane, and basically Andy doesn't like him, so you have that like dynamic of, you know, kid doesn't like mom's boyfriend, and mom who works at a store who's about to give has, you know, some of the buddy dolls. Basically, the mom convinces the boss to let her take one of the dolls, and she does, and she gives it to Andy, and he just randomly names it Chucky, just out of fucking nowhere. I think if you're gonna, for some reason, name him Chucky, you could have had it be, oh, I have an idea, it just hit me right now. They could have did something where, you know, because there's not a dad in the picture, you could have had it to where the dad died and his name was Charles. That would have been an interesting thing, and aka Chucky. That would have been, at least you have some kind of attachment. I mean, it still was a little forced, but at least you could have had some reason he names it Chucky. Just randomly naming it Chucky, it just was random to me. Like, you you literally could have named him any other name, but no, just for some reason we got to name him Chucky. I'm sorry, that feels contrived to me. That just feels like, oh, we need a reason to name him Chucky. The the biggest thing about this film, you don't need it. Should not. It doesn't need to be called Child's Play. You could have called it something else, but so basically, he gets the doll, And one aspect I do like is that overall, like once Andy starts befriending other kids at the apartment, he starts kind of getting jealous because he's like, no, Andy is mine. I like that interesting, dynamic. I wonder if they were gonna do that with the original story, but yeah, that would have been kind of cool. I like this storyline. I like this aspect about it. So I think like a few days later, he's hanging out. Andy's hanging out with his friends. They're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which that's pretty cool. I like the little callback to that movie. Then Chucky basically starts learning um, from the movie. He, I guess, grabs one of the knives and Andy has to take him down. Then the next day, I think like the morning, the cat like freaks out at Andy and scratches him. So Chucky, I guess, off screen kills the cat. Or I think maybe they did show. I don't remember if they showed it. I don't think they showed it. So he killed it, but you do hear audio. And Andy freaks out and basically has to lie to his mom why the cat's gone. And I'll admit, this scene was creepy. When he was sleeping, Andy plays like Chucky plays audio of like the cat dying, and he's like talking. I'll admit, Mark Hamill has a pretty creepy voice because he's also the Joker. So I think it makes sense. Why I understand why they kind of went with a Mark Hamill, but I think they should not have made him witty. So the next day, Andy gets into it with her mom's boyfriend, and her mom takes Buddy away, and basically her boyfriend Shane gets into it with Andy. I think like throws him, and Chucky breaks out and follows him, and then this is where it's revealed her boyfriend was actually married, and she's basically the side chick. So he has a family and wife and kids. I think if this film was longer, it would have been kind of interesting to investigate that. But he dies pretty much the next scene. He's like, I think it's Christmas time. I don't think they explicitly say it, but it seems like it's Christmas time because it's kind of snowing in one of the scenes. It looks kind of cold. You can even kind of tell from the screen. Because I think it's like Christmas lights, so he's taking them down, and then Chucky breaks his leg and then grabs Tiller and then kills him and then says this is the part where the kill was good. He should, but then he says this is for Tupac because I guess he heard one of the kids say it. No, dude, it was out of place. I think what they should have did was he should have been the opposite of Brad Dourif's Chucky. You should have been much more. You could have actually just had him be not had him in a way like kind of like basically an AI Michael Myers. He has no emotion. He might still talk, but he's not. He doesn't have anger. I don't even really like him having anger. I like him to just have him be cold. I think that's what it should have been. He should have just killed him. Not this is for that was too much, dude. That's that like we gotta have some kind of humor, and they were trying to make it maybe like Brad Dourif's, like Brad Dourif would have like a line before he kills somebody. But I'm like, it fits because that's how that Chucky was. This Chucky should have been the opposite. I think this would have been a more interesting take. So the next day, Andy finds out, and then Mike Norris begins an investigation into the murder. Um, then basically Andy and the kids get rid of Chucky basically because they realize he's too dangerous because Andy tells his friends about it, so they get rid of him. The electrician Gabe, who I guess has been stalking Karen throughout the film, like I don't think that was even needed because I guess they wanted you to have a reason you wanted him to die. So yeah, he gives Chucky some upgrades, and then Chucky basically takes control of his tech, and then kills him with a table saw. I'll admit this kill is pretty brutal. There are some good kills in this film, and I'm gonna get to the end, like kind of how you could justify watching this film. But yeah, this kill was pretty good, and so he kills him, and then another kid basically finds him. So Chucky gets in possession by another kid. and Andy basically has to find a way to get it from the other kid. And there's a scene where they confront each other at the store. It was really cheesy. It was just shitty teenager shit. I want the doll. Then they fight. So basically, his mom grounds him at the store. So he's like, no, you have to stay with me. Then that night, um, Mike's mom, Doreen, I'll admit, is a pretty sad scene, gets into one of like the Kazlan smart cars, and then basically Chucky takes control of it, causes it to crash, and I think then breaks in the car, and she looks at him, and then he kills her. I'll admit, this is a pretty good kill scene. Like, pretty sad, too. Like, because you feel bad, like, because mom's just an innocent bystander in all this. And I'll admit, like, this aspect where you can take control, that's why it should not have been called Child's Play. That's the biggest thing. This should have just been its own thing. And then, so now, Mike starts suspecting it's Andy. And basically has to apprehend him at the thing before the things about to start, because this is where they have to reveal the other buddy dolls, which there are some that are like animals and stuff like that, and other races, which that's interesting, and I kind of figured they were going to do something like that, but I'll admit it's at least something different. But I'll admit this scene I was expecting a little bit better. So the other doll, Chucky takes control of the other dolls, causes them to go crazy, they kill some people. I was kind of expecting more from this, and I'm not saying it needed to be a slaughter fest, but I just wanted something a little bit more. But I'll admit, then this scene was so good. So Mike lets Andy go, and then Andy has to confront Chucky. They fight. They manage to disable Chucky and defeating Mike, and because Chucky has Andy's mom and almost kills her. And this is like some of the things we've seen in the trailers for that movie. Then they defeat Chucky, they destroy the body, but then there's like this reveal that Chucky makes another one. It's almost like a sequel setup. So it's an okay slasher, and like I said, the way to justify this movie, you want to watch it, is you gotta remove the name Child's Play, and the doll's called Buddy, so you just call it Buddy, and then Chucky, you don't call him Chucky, you call him Buddy. I think that would have been better. It didn't need to have any ties to the Brad Dourif Chucky. There was no reason. Even like the reason I brought up earlier, like, oh, you could have did this with the name, and it's like, nah, even that, I'm like, there was no need. It was all just to make money, because, oh, it's Child's Play, guys, that's the Child's Play name. There was no need to do it. Universal, I guess, felt like, well, we need to do something with the IP, so we'll try to bring one. I mean, it would have been better if you just, waited, let the series play, and then the series just lead to a new movie. Bring that to theaters. Don't do a sequel to this. Yeah, it made money. I'll give it that. It did well at the box. I think it's the highest grossing Chucky movie. And I give it that, but there's no need for a sequel. I think if you just leave it as a one-off, and you could just watch it as like a buddy universe. This is like a its own universe where it's inspired by Chucky, but there was no need to have the Child's Play name. No need to. You have to change Andy and his mom's names. Get rid of Barkley. Like, get rid of all that ties. I think you could watch it as like just its own slasher thing in your head. But it's a terrible Chucky movie. I'm sorry. It doesn't deserve the Chucky name. It just felt like they just threw it on there. So as a Chucky movie, it's a 4. But as a Child's Play movie, sorry about that. As a Child's Play, as a horror movie, it should be like a fucking 7. So it's like, because I think it has some good kills in it. It's an okay slasher. I think Mark Hamill does decently as Chucky, and I think Aubrey Plaza was okay as fucking Karen, Andy's mom. It was almost like a different take where she's not as put together as like the original mom was in the original film. So they made her like the opposite, and because they wanted her to be Aubrey Plaza, because she's known for being like that quirky type character. I don't think she did that too much in this, and overall I like the film as a horror film as its own thing, but it's not a good Chucky movie. So I'm gonna end this video because the car keeps honking here. So 7 out of 10 as a horror, shitty 4 out of 10 as a Chucky movie. So tomorrow, I'm reviewing Scream 3. So, but other than that, I'm gonna take a hit and peace out. All right, guys. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.